Well, welcome everyone to the Business Spotlight. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. And today I am sitting down with Ethan Baehrend, the founder and CEO of 3D Technologies. And I'm excited to jump into conversation here. So, Ethan, thank you so much for dedicating the time and sitting down with me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. So, Ethan, why don't you share a little bit about your background and about your business overall? Just kind of give us a high level view of what y'all do.
Yeah, so Creative 3D Technologies, we design and manufacture advanced 3D printers. I think a really good way to think of it is kind of like paper printing back in the day, where it didn't make much sense to have all the tools that would go into a print shop under one roof. Instead, you would send that to a print shop and they would get your paper print. And that print shop had different tools to make it happen. Whether you wanted different paper sizes, like for a business card size, to a full newspaper size, whether you wanted different fonts, different pigments, whatever, and they had all the tools to manage it and they give you your print. 3D printing literally has print shops nowadays. And there's a different printer for whatever you want to print. You want something out of, like, say, 316 or 17.4 steel, there's one printer that'll just do your steels. And if you want that same printer print like titanium, that's a different printer. You want that same unit to do that does titanium, do like tungsten or Inconel, those are completely different. You want any of those to do your thermoplastics, it's all different plastic materials. You want your carbon fibers, you want something the size of a chair, you want point-based detail, whatever. Everyone's kind of got their separate little niche, and that's kind of where things are at. And just like how Xerox put the whole print shop into one unit, now there's a paper printer in just about every office. 3D printing is going through a pretty similar shift, and we're hopefully going to be the ones to help us through that end. So our approach is trying to bring one entire suite of 13 separate, typically separate special units that would be all their own crazy high cost unit into one really powerful platform that can just kind of do it all. So bringing it all into one, which has been proving really interesting and opens up a lot of opportunities for you to make all these kind of parts and shapes and geometries that were never really manufacturable in the past.
Oh, that is so cool. So as you look at your business specifically, who would you say your best customer or client is, or kind of who's your target market?
Yeah, so I think that is kind of a interesting question, because usually you say, oh, I'm targeting this market or this market. 3D printing used to be a technology where you did kind of have to jump from market to market, marketing to those types of customers, like, hey, here's how you could benefit from a 3D printer. And now it's really its own market. It's worth over $22 billion and it's growing over 30.2% CAGR, and that's doing well. So we're selling to the 3D printing market. But in terms of actual dividers in the market, in my opinion, there's false subdividers. Like, if you want different metals, then you have the metal printing submarket. You want carbon fiber, you want large format, detail, whatever. You have all these different submarkets. If you have a technology that can bridge those gaps and ignore those dividers, the real divider is price. There's like a sub $6,000 consumer, not an everyday consumer, but your engineers, your hobbyists, some of your startups fit into that. There's your sub $50,000 middle market of small, medium businesses, research labs, universities, and like prototype shops. I think that's where the bulk of the demand is, and that's where we see the most demand as well. But we'll also get a lot of larger larger entities in that industrial market, which can be from your Fortune 500s, like your automakers, your space companies, and everything like that too. But also paired in there your DoDs, your governments, and everyone else that would want a whole bunch of printers. So, and we'll see a large mix, but we'll see the bulk of our demand from that middle market, if not a lot of that industrial. And in terms of what's specific, like, oh well, what are they doing on the printer? It's kind of a bit of everything. We'll see anywhere from like Michelin star kitchens that want them to print these weird sugar structures and fill it in with whatever cream they're making in house, and to I'm medical, to DoD stuff, to I even printed some of the parts in my car too. So it all depends on if there's a physical product. A lot of times are relevant, which is exciting to see.
Oh, that is so cool. And that probably was the best answer that I've heard when it comes to kind of explaining something as big as what you're tackling. So that's really cool. So I'm curious on your journey specifically, getting into this industry. Sounds like you've got some excitement and passion around kind of the 3D printing industry. So tell me a little bit about kind of what led you on this path to the point where you're at today.
I've always enjoyed growing up and seeing the headlines of what technology is doing and how it's bettering people's lives and kind of making you think of, oh, well, what's next? And look towards the future. And I see 3D printing as technology can empower a whole lot of that to come into fruition. One of the main slogans for the company is creation without constraint. I really like the idea of enabling people to create without a lot of typical constraints. In my opinion, engineering is a large one of them. You go to an engineering school, they're not teaching you what to make, they're teaching you how to make it. These are the shapes you can and can't manufacture. These are the tools that can do so. Now make a product and follow these steps to do so. And when you make a technology that says, screw you to all of that, and you can make these shapes now, it opens up a lot of doors. It opens up a lot of things that weren't possible, and it makes it more feasible. Like if you're a startup, it makes more sense to like get one of these units and go from concept to iteration and actually feel it out instead of running all these virtual simulations and keep printing and printing till it's perfect and then get in the customer's hands all in one tool. That opens up a lot of doors. And I'm that's what excites me. I'm empowering that ability to create. And then actually, once they're out there and seeing what all these people are making, and there's people that threw syringes on this thing and putting petri dishes on there and trying to use it as a bioprinter to make human organs, which is wild. I have no idea how to do that, but hey, if this is a tool that can help you with it, awesome. And it's exciting to see how people are really pushing that. So in terms of what excites me looking and doing that, that's it. I've just always enjoyed that empowering the creativity. And if I can make my own things, I've always enjoyed making something that can help do that. That's where I get excited. So
Oh, that's so cool. So as we look at, kind of the other side of this, which is just getting into business for yourself and just being more entrepreneurial. Was there anything that officially sparked that transition from just I want to be in this industry and be a leader in this industry to I want to actually have my own business and create this thing? Is there anything that kind of started that part of the path for you?
it wasn't exactly intentional. That was never the main goal. Like, okay, I need a business to do this. I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to be the CEO of something. I've always been someone that walks to the beat of their own drummer, but it's been never with the exact goal of, oh, it has to be a company and this is what I'm aspiring to do. It was just seeing where interest led and what I'm passionate about. I have a life outlook that I think helps inspire and dictate a lot of what I do. And I don't want to live it with regrets. That's the core of it. I've seen a lot of folks that are very successful that have pursued businesses and they've done a lot of things and they're towards the end of their days and they're not happy. They've got all this added money, they've got all this opportunity and everything kind of right there at their feet, yet they're not happy because they look back at life and they've not lived in the most fulfilling way. They just lived it successfully. And my view instead is I don't want to be at that point later on in life where I have regrets for not pursuing something or leaving a stone unturned because I was scared of rocking a boat or doing something different or the risks associated with it. So might as well take it because I know I'll regret it later if I don't. So a lot of it was just what's exciting me, what am I genuinely passionate about, and not passion in the sense that people use it nowadays where it's just your general preferred career, but passion in the sense that if you had unlimited resources, what would you still be pursuing? What would you be wanting to do of your time? And I'm pretty sure I'd be right back here. Initially the business started just me getting into 3D printing. I liked it. I bought one. I pretty quickly broke it, but I bought a printer that just printed. And it was initially the idea was just, oh, well, I have 3D modeling skills. Let me make little toys and gifts and cheaper things for friends and family and personally did. And then eventually turned into me realizing I liked designing and making parts for these machines a lot more than I just liked printing on them. And I'm making it better and better, turned into me running one of the first refurbishing arms for the business. And then me selling and supporting these printers in their life cycles in market and having them outperform the OEMs, like going from what was deemed a scrap machine to now an outperforming machine. And for a whole lot less money, I turned their heads for a lot of the OEMs. So we started making IP for a lot of these printers, and then eventually turned into, oh, well, now that we have all this information because we had a lot of people dependent on us, let's do it ourselves and break these dynamics that we're not happy with, because I it takes advantage of a lot of customers. And that's when it started this company and decided, let's shake it up, let's do things differently. So it's a bit of
That's
the
awesome.
timeline and motivation there.
That's awesome. So I always joke that whenever I talk to business owners, I have yet to find someone that tells me that this is not correct. So if you're the exception, I'm eager to learn and listen. But in this journey of getting into business for yourself and going through kind of the entrepreneur's path, it's almost never a perfectly straight line of always positives and things going well. There's usually ups and downs and things like that. So I'm curious if there's in your journey specifically, has there been any kind of pivotal or momentous like obstacles or hurdles that you've had to overcome that have kind of changed the way that you think about running business, or that has kind of made you or the business stronger as you continue to grow?
There's been a lot. I like to tell folks a lot of times we have updates that make startups entire years, oftentimes on a pretty much bi-weekly, if not weekly basis. And there's a lot of struggle that goes with that. I mean, that's not always something that comes along easily. And a lot of it was setting the right bricks and foundation in place in the very beginning, because I'm very predictive. I put plans A through Z before entering any situation, which on a social level is awful, but for business that works really well. And it leaves you prepared for everything, so nothing really surprises you. And I think I've played through a lot of situations that could go wrong, and actually seeing and studying all the companies that rose and fell over the 5 years I had my last business before this one really helped give me some insight into the whole industry and what steps to take and not to. But a lot of it was just, like I was saying, that initial preparedness that helped me avoid a lot of issues. And it was hard getting to where we're at, because it was overcoming a lot of standards or going against a lot of things that are deemed traditional. Because in 3D printing, weirdly enough, even though it's a machine that's designed to overcome what geometry you can and can't make a product in, all the machines that are out there are designed with those same geometric constraints in mind. So instead of designing a machine that truly, well, first of all, there's all these machines that are out there, and they're all based on the general same principles and designs of what was initially successful. Instead of anyone going against that, they just keep re-releasing the same thing and iterating on it, because no one wants to reinvent the wheel. But instead, and we're taking the approach of, oh, well, this is a new machine that's able to make all these new shapes. Let's build that machine with that in mind, and instead design every single thing to overcome every single part in the machine to overcome different issues with traditional printing, make it more reliable, make it faster, add new features, things like that. And that was tough, because you have to design a design method that goes against traditional engineering, design a production method that make that printer, if that didn't work, restart like 200 sometimes. And that was rough too, because for me, that was meant sleeping an everyman cycle, which is 4 hours a night plus 2 30-minute naps scattered in a day, so I could have over 120 hours of productivity. And that's not easy, and that definitely took a lot of sacrifice. I think that was the bulk of it. After that, everything was very minutely planned. There's a 5-year financial plan that we run off of that accounts for everything down to toilet paper. So I think just having that preparedness probably helped me avoid a lot of other issues that could have hit me along the way. But just building myself up to go against those standards to begin with was tough and took time.
That's awesome. I'm curious on what is the biggest lesson or the biggest area that you've personally had to grow into as you continue to develop as a business owner?
I think mine is definitely on the raising side of things. I'm not new to business. I am new to startups and the dynamics of startups. And this is the first company that I've had that needed to go through those startup dynamics. And that's a completely different set of skills that you need to have. That's pretty necessary for any founder to have that. And if you don't, it's going to make life a lot tougher. So needing to learn, adapt, and really just throw myself in the deep end too. Better understanding, I mean, that whole socialization and raising side of things and cultivating a lot of those business relationships and learning how to network and build networks in the first place was tougher, but I mean, overcoming that was large for me and helpful because I am, as a business, you're always going to need money. There's always going to be expansionary steps, and you always have to plan ahead, like I mentioned too. And well, you need to skill to actually execute on that a lot of times too, not just to identify that that's a need as well. So that was a necessity, but I'm after learning it, it's been very helpful to have.
Excellent. So I've only really got two questions left. Before we get into the final one here, if you were to go back in time and give your younger self advice, in hindsight, with all the things that you've learned and gone through and experienced now, what one piece of advice would you give yourself?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because I've always been very analytical and nitpicky with it. And if I go back and say something, then I won't get to that point in the future where I go back to tell myself that in the first place, and that creates a paradox. But but if I could do that without ruining any kind of timelines, just encouragement. I think the certainty knowing that you're on the right track and that you're doing something right when you have the most doubt about it in the very beginning, when you're first considering going down that path, I think is helpful and would have given me a little more time focusing on where my focus is really needed. I mean, just that assurance. And if you have a good group of folks around you, I mean, they'll be able to give you that. But I've always been like, I am very solo in early days. So having that add level encouragement that you're on the right path, it's going to take a lot of dedication. It's going to take a lot of time and effort. And sometimes it might feel like it's not the right path, but having that just back sense of guarantee that it's going to make it is helpful.
That is awesome advice. And I think the preface of your answer there is probably my favorite answer I have now ever gotten in asking that question. So thank you for that. Uh, so before we kind of wrap up with the last question that I've got for you here, because I do want to be respectful of time. How can others learn more about the industry, about 3D printing, about your business specifically, connect with you? What are the best ways that people can find out more information or make some connections?
Yeah, our website, just creative3dtechnologies.com, has a lot of info on there, and it's pretty accessible. And we're adding new things to it all the time. Actually, we're revving up to launch a new product come this March, which is exciting. But we've been putting in a lot of info on the website, making a lot of overhauls and things of the sort in the meantime too. So just keeping track on there on the socials. I know they'll find all the updates. So where
Beautiful.
everyone's active.
Beautiful. So we'll end on this question here for you today. Ethan, what is most inspiring to you today?
People's drive and initiative and seeing what they're able to make even in tough times. There's a whole lot going on. I'm especially looking at supply chain, for example, that I don't think the general public realizes how bad things are on that front, yet we're still getting packages and things are still moving on that front. Though timelines may be a little messed up in areas, things are still moving and pushing forward, and seeing the creative ways that people have had to approach these different problems and quickly solve them before they turn into larger full supply chain breaking issues has been really interesting for me to see. And really gives you a sense of assurance that even though things might be tough, human ingenuity always pushes through, and I think we'll find a way.
It's amazing. Absolutely love that. Ethan, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you a little bit better, learn a little bit more about the business, and there's going to be a lot to get excited about in your line of work and your industry specifically over the coming years. So thank you so much for being here and sharing with us today.
Of course, thank you for the opportunity.